The officials declined further comment, and it was not clear whether the Syrian moves would impact U.S. military planning for potential action against Syria over a suspected poison gas attack, Reuters reported. But this move can limit the damages that a joint airstrike conducted by the U.S. and its allies would have on the Syrian army, should the Western countries decide to turn words into actions. A similar assessment was delivered earlier today by the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a Britain-based war monitor, which said that pro-Syrian government forces were emptying main airports and military air bases. After days of warnings, U.S. President Mr. Trump made clear that he is willing to punish the Syrian government by tweeting earlier today that Russia, one of Syria's key allies, should get ready for missiles to be fired at Damascus. The U.S. were joined in their outcry against the chemical attack by the UK and France, which have agreed to work together and are believed to be preparing for a military strike in response to the alleged chemical attack at the weekend. Prime Minister Theresa May is said to be ready to approve a British military response to the attack without seeking parliamentary approval, the BBC reported. Speaking to Channel 4 News earlier today, Mrs. May said, "The first stage is for us to be assessing with our partners and allies what has actually happened in Syria on the ground. Obviously what we've seen is a chemical weapons attack. An appalling chemical weapons attack. If this is the responsibility of the Assad regime, then it is another example of the irresponsibility and brazen disregard he shows for his people. And we believe that those responsible should be held to account." Mrs. May spoke to President Trump over the phone on Tuesday afternoon to discuss their joint response to the attack, a Downing Street spokesperson said. They agreed that reports of a chemical weapons attack in Syria were utterly reprehensible and, if confirmed, represented further evidence of the Assad regime's appalling cruelty against its own people and total disregard for its legal obligations not to use these weapons. A spokesperson for the president said, "Both leaders condemned Syrian President Assad's vicious disregard for human life. The President and Prime Minister agreed not to allow the use of chemical weapons to continue. Get a Syrian military may be getting ready to face a U.S. airstrike despite Syria's President Bashar al-Assad and his government denied launching the chemical attack on the rebel-held town of Doman on Saturday." Mr. Trump called him a gas-killing animal in one of his tweets. The U.S. President tweeted, "Russia vows to shoot down any and all missiles fired at Syria. Get ready, Russia, because they will be coming, nice and new and smart. You shouldn't be partners with a gas-killing animal who kills his people and enjoys it!" A representative from the State Department said that reports show that at least 40 people were killed during the attack. The representative also added that Russia shares the blame of the attack with Syria. He said, "The Assad regime's history of using chemical weapons against its own people is not in dispute. As we've said, Russia ultimately bears responsibility for the brutal targeting of countless Syrians with chemical weapons. Russia's protection of the Assad regime and failure to stop the use of chemical weapons in Syria calls into question its commitment to resolving the overall crisis." Senior Russian officials said that any U.S. military action would find a response. Russia's foreign ministry said, "Smart missiles should fly towards terrorists, not towards the lawful government." The news of the Syrian military's action comes while Bolivia asked for the United Nations Security Council to meet on Thursday and discuss the escalation of rhetoric regarding Syria and these threats of unilateral military action. Bolivia's UN ambassador, Sacha Sergio Lorendi Solis, added, "There's a consistency in these threats. So we are concerned because any unilateral action would be a violation of the principles and purposes of the UN Charter."